Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie appeared to be living the perfect young love story in the summer of 2021. The 22-year-old travel enthusiast and her 23-year-old fiancé had transformed a white Ford Transit van into a cozy home on wheels, documenting their cross-country adventure on social media. Gabby's Instagram account, at Nomadic Static, showed the couple smiling at national parks, cooking meals in their van, and living what seemed like an idyllic, carefree life. Friends and family described them as deeply in love, though some later recalled signs of tension in their relationship. The couple's journey took a troubling turn on August 12th in Moab, Utah, when police responded to a domestic disturbance call. Witnesses had reported seeing Brian slapping Gabby and the couple arguing violently outside a grocery store. Body camera footage showed an emotional Gabby telling officers that Brian had grabbed her face during an argument, while Brian claimed she had hit him first. Police separated them for the night but declined to press charges, classifying the incident as a mental health episode rather than domestic violence. This decision would later be scrutinized as a missed opportunity to intervene in what may have been an abusive relationship. After the Moab incident, Gabby's communications with family became increasingly sporadic. Her last known sighting was on August 27th at a restaurant in Wyoming, where staff reported the couple arguing before leaving separately. Days later, Brian returned alone to his parents' home in Florida, driving Gabby's van. When Gabby's family couldn't reach her, they grew increasingly concerned. Their worries intensified when Brian refused to answer questions about Gabby's whereabouts and retained a lawyer. On September 11th, Gabby's mother reported her daughter missing, launching one of the most publicized missing person cases in recent history. As authorities began investigating, internet sleuths analyzed every detail of Gabby and Brian's social media posts. The contrast between Gabby's bright, adventurous online persona and the troubling reality of her disappearance captivated the nation. Meanwhile, Brian's unusual behavior, refusing to cooperate with police, going on camping trips with his family during the search, and then disappearing himself on September 14th, only deepened the mystery. The case quickly escalated from a missing person investigation to a nationwide manhunt, with the public demanding answers about what had happened to the vibrant young woman whose van life dreams had turned into a nightmare. The search for Gabby reached a heartbreaking conclusion on September 19th, when her body was discovered near Grand Teton National Park. The coroner's report revealed she had died by manual strangulation, with the manner of death ruled a homicide. As authorities named Brian as a person of interest, the country waited anxiously for developments in the case, unaware that even more shocking twists were yet to come in this tragic story. The discovery of Gabby Petito's body in Wyoming on September 19th, 2021, transformed the case from a missing person investigation into a nationwide manhunt for her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. As authorities declared him a person of interest, attention shifted to his mysterious disappearance just days after returning home alone in Gabby's van. The Laundrie family's unusual behavior only deepened public suspicion. They had waited 3 days to report Brian missing and refused to speak with Gabby's distraught parents. The FBI took over the investigation, focusing their search on the vast Carlton Reserve Wilderness area near the Laundrie home in Northport, Florida, where Brian had reportedly gone hiking. For weeks, the search for Brian Laundrie became a media spectacle. Law enforcement combed through the swampy, alligator-infested reserve with helicopters, drones, and dive teams, while protesters gathered outside the Laundrie home demanding answers. Internet sleuths dissected every clue, from strange Spotify playlists to deleted Instagram posts. The case took another bizarre turn when a hitchhiker came forward, claiming to have picked up Brian near where Gabby's body was found, describing his odd behavior. Meanwhile, Gabby's funeral in New York drew mourners from across the country, her tragic story sparking national conversations about domestic violence and missing persons cases. The search reached its grim conclusion on October 20th when Brian's personal belongings and partial human remains were discovered in the Carlton Reserve. A notebook found nearby contained what appeared to be a confession, with Brian writing that he had killed Gabby after she was injured during an argument. Forensic analysis confirmed the remains were Brian's, with evidence suggesting he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The discovery left countless questions unanswered about the couple's final days together and the Laundrie family's knowledge of events. While the physical search had ended, the legal and emotional aftermath was just beginning, setting the stage for lawsuits, continued investigations, and an ongoing cultural reckoning about the many issues the case had brought to light. The tragic story of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie did not end with their deaths. In the months and years that followed, the case continued to reverberate through the legal system, media landscape, and American culture, sparking important conversations about domestic violence, mental health, and the way missing persons cases are handled. What began as a heartbreaking personal tragedy evolved into a national movement for change, exposing systemic flaws and societal biases that extend far beyond this single case. With both Gabby and Brian deceased, no criminal trial would ever provide a definitive account of what happened during their final days together. However, the legal battles were far from over. In March 2022, Gabby's parents, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Brian Laundrie's estate, seeking damages for the emotional distress and suffering caused by their daughter's murder. The lawsuit also targeted the Laundrie parents, Chris and Roberta, alleging they had knowingly assisted their son in evading law enforcement after Gabby's death. The Laundries denied these allegations, but the lawsuit uncovered disturbing details about their actions in the weeks following Gabby's disappearance. Text messages and phone records revealed that the Laundries had contacted a family attorney before Gabby was even reported missing, suggesting they may have been aware of Brian's involvement much earlier than they admitted. Additionally, evidence showed that Chris Laundrie had gone to the Carlton Reserve shortly before Brian disappeared, fueling speculation that he may have helped his son hide evidence or plan his escape. The most shocking revelation came from Brian's notebook, which was recovered near his remains. In a series of handwritten pages, Brian admitted to killing Gabby but framed it as a mercy killing, claiming she had been in pain after an accident. Forensic experts and law enforcement dismissed this version of events, pointing to the coroner's report, which indicated Gabby had been manually strangled, a violent, deliberate act that contradicted Brian's narrative. Legal analysts debated whether the notebook could be considered a valid confession, as it was written under unclear circumstances and never subjected to cross-examination in court. In the end, the Petito family reached a settlement with the Laundries in 2023, though the exact terms were kept confidential. The resolution did little to ease the pain of Gabby's loved ones, but it marked the closing of one chapter in a saga that had consumed national attention for nearly 2 years. Few missing persons cases in modern history have captured the public's attention like Gabby Petito's. From the moment her family reported her disappearance, the story became a 24/7 news cycle fixture, amplified by social media and true crime communities. The hashtag number sign Gabby Petito trended for weeks, with amateur sleuths dissecting every frame of police body cam footage, every Instagram post, and every cryptic message attributed to Brian. This unprecedented level of scrutiny had both positive and negative consequences. On one hand, the public's engagement kept pressure on law enforcement to prioritize the case, leading to the rapid discovery of Gabby's remains. On the other hand, the frenzy often crossed into unethical territory, with internet detectives harassing innocent people who had tenuous connections to the case. One particularly egregious example was the false identification of a random traveler as Brian Laundrie, leading to death threats and online abuse. The media's role in the case also raised uncomfortable questions about racial and gender biases in coverage. While Gabby's story dominated headlines, thousands of missing Indigenous, Black, and Latina women received little to no attention, a phenomenon activists dubbed missing white woman syndrome. Gabby's family acknowledged this disparity and later used their platform to advocate for marginalized missing persons cases. But the imbalance remained a stark reminder of systemic inequities in media representation. Perhaps the most significant legacy of Gabby Petito's case was its impact on conversations about domestic violence. The Moab police stop in August 2021, where officers failed to recognize Gabby as a potential abuse victim, became a case study in law enforcement's shortcomings when handling intimate partner violence. Body cam footage showed Gabby visibly distraught, taking blame for the altercation, while Brian appeared calm and collected. Experts later pointed out classic signs of coercive control that were overlooked, such as Brian's controlling behavior and Gabby's fear of being left alone without the van. In response, several states introduced legislation to improve police training on domestic violence. Utah, where the Moab incident occurred, passed Gabby's Law, mandating enhanced training for officers to identify subtle signs of abuse and coercive control. Similar measures were proposed at the federal level, with advocates pushing for nationwide reforms in how law enforcement handles domestic disputes. Gabby's story also inspired a surge in domestic violence awareness campaigns. The National Domestic Violence Hotline reported a dramatic increase in calls following her death, as many victims saw parallels in their own relationships. Nonprofits and shelters used the case to highlight the warning signs of abusive partnerships, emphasizing that violence often escalates during periods of isolation, like the couple's life on the road. Before her death, Gabby had romanticized the number van life movement, sharing idyllic photos of her travels with Brian. But her case exposed the darker side of nomadic living, particularly for young women. Without a stable support network, victims of abuse in van life communities can find themselves trapped in dangerous situations, far from help. In the aftermath, van life influencers and organizations began addressing safety concerns more openly. Online forums now include resources for travelers in crisis, and some manufacturers have added safety features to camper vans, such as discrete panic buttons. The conversation shifted from purely aspirational to more realistic discussions about the risks of life on the road. Though her life was cut short, Gabby Petito's memory lives on through the foundation established in her name. The Gabby Petito Foundation focuses on assisting families of missing persons, advocating for domestic violence victims, and promoting mental health awareness. Her parents have become vocal advocates for policy changes, working with lawmakers to improve police responses to missing persons cases. Memorials to Gabby still stand in Wyoming and Florida, where visitors leave flowers, notes, and tokens of remembrance. Social media tributes continue to pour in, a testament to how deeply her story resonated with millions. Despite the closure brought by the discovery of both Gabby and Brian's remains, some mysteries remain. What exactly happened in the days leading up to Gabby's death? Did Brian act alone, or was there more to his family's involvement? And could intervention at any point have prevented this tragedy? These questions may never be fully answered. But what is certain is that Gabby's case changed the way America thinks about missing persons, domestic violence, and the responsibilities of law enforcement. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of how love can turn to danger and how systemic failures can have deadly consequences. In the end, Gabby Petito's legacy is not just about how she died, but about the lives she continues to touch and the changes her story has inspired. For many, she will always be more than a headline. She will be a catalyst for change.